Hi Aquarius, welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for December 2019. For you Aquarius, there's going to be some 11th house activity, the house of friends, and lots of 12th house activity. So you might feel like secluding yourself a little bit this month. Julia, what are your thoughts about it?
For sure. Well, hey, Aquarius. So Venus begins in your 12th house this month. That's a very secluded place, just as Jamie was saying. It rules things like monasteries, ashrams, prisons, places where we have to leave society. And Venus is the planet of socializing. So that must mean that you might not be feeling so inclined to kind of get out of the house and meet up with people and party so much during this time, but you might enjoy your solitude a lot more. And if you're partnered or in a relationship, because the 12th house has all of this kind of higher spiritual meaning, you may be feeling more sacrificial within your relationship too. Like
Mm.
maybe you need to find things that are sort of selfless that you can do to help your partner out in some way. And then when Venus enters the first house of self on December 19th, you're going to be looking extra cute after that. It's a really, really good time for dating and relationships. But it's really, really good if you need to sort of beautify yourself in any way, like get a new haircut or try a new style out. Now Mars is going to be in Scorpio all month, which corresponds with your 10th house of career. So that means, like, because Mars is such an active and energetic planet, that you're going to be putting a lot of energy and really applying yourself on your job this month, which can be very, very productive. But Mars can also get tripped up on his own ego. So this might not be the best time to get along well with your superiors at work or any authority figures in your life. Like, for example, you might end up fighting with your parents a little bit more than usual if they are still your authority figures. Now, let's move on to Mercury. Mercury is the planet of communication and mentation, and it's going to be in your 11th house of friends and groups on December 9th. So your best thinking may be done when you're sort of surrounded by your buddies and talking things through together instead of just on your own. And
Mm.
if you're part of any type of, like, let's say, a recovery group, you may be much more willing to kind of speak out and express yourself to the group than you usually do. Then Mercury enters your 12th house on December 28th. And again, that's the house of hidden gifts, but also self undoing. So, what that means is you might be doing a lot of your best thinking on your own at this time, but be careful if something you say kind of ends up shooting yourself in the foot later. So, the best thing you can do is speak as truthfully as possible to avoid that. What else is going on this month, Jamie?
Well, there are going to be a couple of moons and also some Jupiter activity that I want to talk about. Right around the 12th, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, we have got a full moon in Gemini right here. That falls in your fifth house, Aquarius, opposite the sun in the 11th house, which is your comfort zone because that's the house of friends and groups and tribe and community, and also brainstorming, like Julia was saying. But this moon is a bit of an anxious moon because a full moon is a time when emotions tend to run high. But when that full moon falls in an air sign like Gemini here, there can be a tendency to overthink it, to just, spin in circles, trying to solve some kind of emotional puzzle as if it is a puzzle and just instead of just emotions, which is probably what it really is. And I think that really the source of the anxiety is that Neptune is here forming a T square with the moon and the sun. And when that happens, there can often be this feeling of life in suspense, a state of suspended animation where you're waiting for some information to appear so that you can know how you feel. Well, it's probably not going to appear. You're probably just going to have to wait a little bit for it. So if you find that you're feeling anxious between December 10th and 12th, might be good to just sort of take a chill pill and worry a little bit less. Now, this moon does fall in the house of creativity. So if you wanted to channel that intense emotion instead of into excess thought and worry, channel it into creative pursuits, well, then you'd be on solid ground. Then a little later in the month, we have got a super fascinating eclipse happening in early Capricorn, and that is your 12th house, as Julia said. Now, certainly, traditionally, this is the house of prisons and asylums and places like that. But that's really just a metaphor for the way that this house is about solitude and retreat. So when there's a really big grouping of planets in your 12th house, it's a great time to take a step back from the world, to maybe, go visit a spa, get some alone time, and pull back into yourself. It's also a really great time to make more visits to churches, monasteries, mosques, synagogues, wherever you do your worshiping and have your spiritual life, is a really great place to just, take refuge in that. So now this new moon, which is what is happening here, we have the sun in Capricorn, the moon in Capricorn, and also the node is in Capricorn. And when that happens, it's not just a new moon, it's also an eclipse. And an eclipse is a time when we must look at our shadow. Now, this is a solar eclipse, not a lunar eclipse. And a solar eclipse means that when we are faced with our shadow, that probably other people can see it too. And that can be upsetting, it can be decentering, it can be discombobulating. And the fact that it's happening in the 12th house of hidden away places and internal spaces and the imagination does give you the chance, perhaps, to not have this, slathered all over the front pages of your local newspaper. But I think that it is a pretty strong call to look inside yourself. Now, there is a saving grace about this eclipse, which is that Jupiter is in it. Jupiter enters Capricorn this month to stay there pretty much throughout 2020 until December of 2020 when it moves out into your sign, Aquarius. Woot, that's going to be awesome. But in the meanwhile, Jupiter's going to be passing along through your 12th house, which makes this a really great year for going inside yourself and looking into your spiritual approaches to life, your core spiritual values, your worldview, and the system of thought with which you approach the world when you consider not just the physical world but the metaphysical world too. So it's really going to be a year of examining your ethics in that way, and that is a very useful place for you to grow this whole year as Jupiter moves forward in Capricorn. So if you were interested in a reading, if you were thinking that you want to get a jump on your birthday, there couldn't be a better time. For two reasons. One is because it's really good to get a birthday reading before your birthday happens, because that way you can be ready when your year begins on your birthday. Now, the other reason is because you might want to travel for your birthday, because in that reading you might discover that a location different from your home location is the best place, the most optimal place for you to be to cement the best birthday chart for the things that you want to do in the coming year. So now could be the best time to actually schedule that reading, Aquarius. And gosh, Julia, do we have anything else to say to Aquarius? I think we hit all the bases there. I hope you enjoyed this, Aquarius. We certainly enjoyed making it for you. And we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.